And the one thing we will do that they never will do is we will follow the facts and the law and go to courts of law and correct these justices and lawyers who have been prosecuting these cases based on politics and actually issuing them as lawfare.
Sam Seder in the Majority Report talk about Kash Patel and the plans to dismantle existing norms and use the powers of the state to go after Trump's political enemies. It's, it's hardly new news, but it is chilling stuff. Let's take a listen.
Over the weekend, Donald Trump announced that he was going to nominate this guy, Kash Patel, Tim Pool's favorite guy for, I think, for Attorney General, but FBI will do. This guy was named to be the FBI head. And let's be clear, I don't have huge love for the FBI. The FBI has done, at least in my, 20 years of paying attention to politics, some pretty horrible things in terms of spying on Muslims. Certainly in the 60s, they were spying on anybody on the left. Hoover was an absolute piece of garbage. I'm sure the FBI does some good things too, but I'm sure there's good people on both sides.
In between the entrapping Muslim teenagers. Exactly.
But I don't think we want, aside from the abuses of the FBI, I don't think there's any sense that we're not going to get those abuses from this guy.
So my question would be, even if the FBI is guilty of doing nasty stuff, people talk about Martin Luther King and other sort of high-profile times in which they have surveilled and persecuted American citizens. Do we think it's going to be better if that is the explicit intent of the department, right? Is that better that it's all out in the front and that's the stated purpose of the department? Or, right? Neither is good. Which is worse? Obviously, it's worse if it becomes a tool of the government to go after American citizens explicitly.
Do you feel highly confident that when you go back and as a senior member of this administration, President Trump's administration, starting in the afternoon of the 20th of January of 2025, do you feel confident that you will be able to deliver the goods, that we can have serious prosecutions and accountability? And I want the Morning Joe producers that watch us and all the producers that watch us, this is just not rhetoric. We're absolutely dead serious. We're not. You cannot have a constitutional republic and allow what these deep staters have done to the country. The deep state, the administrative state, the fourth branch of government, never mentioned in the Constitution, is going to be taken apart brick by brick. And the people that did these evil deeds will be held accountable and prosecuted, criminal prosecutions. Kash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA, but do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order, the first couple of months, so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me.
The radical left-wing media can terrorize these poor right-wingers who are only trying to save America and don't deserve to have the light shown on them.
Thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go around is we got to put in all America patriots top to bottom, and we got them for law enforcement, we got them for intel collection, we got them for offensive operations, we got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. And the one thing we will do that they never will do is we will follow the facts and the law and go to courts of law and correct these justices and lawyers who have been prosecuting these cases based on politics and actually issuing them as lawfare.
Pause it for 1 second. How do you correct justices and prosecutors? What does that mean? Correct them. He's basically saying we're going to be putting Trump loyalists throughout every position. Now this answer is sort of premised on being in control of the CIA, which I guess on some level, thank goodness for small favors, the FBI has a little bit more transparency.
And it's more about domestic enemies as opposed to
it's under, I mean, but the CIA, God knows, what they're up to. I guess there's at least a little bit more oversight of the FBI. But he's basically just announcing, and he's making it clear, we're going to top to bottom. Nobody's going to have a question with the orders that they get. And we're going to go in and correct judges and prosecutors.
And the other thing is, so what he's describing is authoritarianism. It's real easy to imagine Nazis doing this. The thing he leaves out is these quote unquote lawfare prosecutions against the poor patriots on the right are based on evidence, right? I mean, the last bastion of all of this, except leaving the Supreme Court out of it for a second, is the judicial system, where even Trump judges, when they brought their fraud cases after the 2020 election, 2020 election, we're thrown out because Rudy Giuliani could present no evidence that there was voter fraud, right? And that's not how it works. You come in here, you make an assertion, and then you present evidence to that, and then we weigh the evidence and we make a judgment on it. So all of these people that have been prosecuted have been found guilty based on actual evidence, right? But what he's describing is coming in here and punishing anyone that they perceive as an enemy that doesn't. What really infuriates me about it is the language of patriotism they paste all over it, right? But at a certain point, that starts to tip into an extremely authoritarian feeling where everything is a patriot and everything is red, white, and blue, and then you can start to hear the goose-stepping boots in the background if you listen to it long enough.
Hey.
On politics and actually issuing them as lawfare. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're
Pause it for a second.
Because we're actually going to use.
Also, this whole thing about Joe Biden rigging elections. Why didn't he do it this time? Why did he do it last time and he didn't do it this time?
Right. Like Joe Biden, the mastermind who can rig elections, just decided not to rig this one.
Did he have, was he the only one who had the apparatus? And he's like, I'm staying in the race. I'm not giving you the rigging.
He's both, now he's mentally incompetent. Don't you understand? So
I forgot where I put the button to switch the votes.
Yep.
I knew I hit it somewhere.
And to what Kash Patel said, this is why they think we're tyrannical. Just because we crush our enemies and we go out and we find anybody that opposes or thinks differently than we, and we grind our boots on their throat and we throw them in prison and we call them traitors. And, that's why they think we're tyrannical, because it's tyrannical.
I want Kamala to find it and I forgot where I put it. I mean, the point here is either he's out of his mind, or he's just blatantly lying. Now, I should also add, there's a C option, which is he's out of his mind and also blatantly lying.
I would say that's likely. I mean, this guy's a lunatic. Do we have more of this? But
yeah, play a little bit more.
A little bit more.
We go back a little bit.
To come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators, because we're actually going to use the Constitution to prosecute them for crimes they said we have always been guilty of, but never have.
Okay. So I know you are, but what am I? Well,
that's real though. Cori Bush, one of the first things she did after Jan 6 when she got into Congress was tried to expel the Jan 6ers. That should have been done. And we see a counterexample with Brazil going after the coup plotters. That these guys were allowed to sit in and regroup is a huge problem.
And it's also a failure of Merrick Garland. So to return to the absurdity of this claim, essentially, that Biden was the one rigging this in their favor. It's ridiculous. Biden went over the top, and like this is within the context, I guess, of the Hunter pardon too. He started a special counsel to look into his document retention as vice president, which ended up biting him in the ass because it included anecdotes about his mental decline. He kept on that Trump appointed prosecutor who was looking into that Hunter gun allegation, which they would never have pursued if it wasn't Hunter Biden. Like, he went over the top to basically say, I'm not political about this. And, you know, he ended up pardoning Hunter because of that. I'm not defending the action, but I'm just basically saying that norms only apply on one side. And then you have guys like this who are explicitly saying we're going to go after our political enemies. And Trump's trying to reward him to be FBI director. This, just to underscore what a lunatic this guy is. He was a staffer for Devin Nunes, a California Republican who now leads Truth Social, Trump's media operation. When he was a staffer for Nunes, he traveled to the UK without telling either government as an aide to this congressperson to personally look for Christopher Steele so he could go after one of Trump's enemies who was targeting him in the UK. And then after that, he wrote a bunch of children's books called The Plot Against the King, where it's about how Donald Trump, you know, was the victim of a coup attempt. I mean, he's a lunatic. And he was picked at one point for chief of staff to Defense Secretary Christopher Miller, who was appointed after Trump fired Mark Esper in the week after the election. So he...
And we can call him a lunatic. We can call all of them lunatics. But that doesn't mean it's not dangerous, right? The thing with propaganda is it doesn't have to make sense. In fact, in some cases, it's even better if it doesn't, right? You need to repeat the same lie, and different versions of the lie are fine, but there needs to be the same kind of core thing. Trump didn't lose the election. It was all rigged. They're trying to steal our patriotism. Trans people are trying to turn your kids gay. You know, vaccines don't work. You know, there's hydrogen in the water. It's just supposed to alarm and scare and confuse you, divide us. And Kash Patel is clearly an idiot, but he is like Devin Nunes. He is an idiot that understands that all you have to do is say these buzzwords, these red button words, and a bunch of them. The more of them, the better, back to back. And it's like beep, 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 beep. It presses the button so much that our poor liberal brains get all befuddled, and we don't know what to attack first. It's all baloney, and that's the point. They're telling us what they can do, and they're couching it as, no, this is good for you. But, you know, we cannot brush them off as just a bunch of morons who don't know what they're doing. They know precisely what they're doing. It's insidious and horrible, and it's, you know, fascist 101. It's authoritarianism. And the only thing we can say is that Trump doesn't have an ideology, right? Trump isn't Hitler. Hitler had an ideology. Trump doesn't have an ideology, but would he love to free the January 6 people and have a personal army of stormtroopers to go and do, you know, not do his bidding in terms of executing his ideology, but get people out of his way, silence the voices that rise up to speak truth against his actions? Of course he would. Of course he would. This is a guy who wants to have missile parades. So we have to be careful about brushing all of this off as cuckoo crazy. Yeah. It's cuckoo crazy by design.
Explicitly promoted within the context of he can be one of the guys that helps me overturn the results of the election.
Yep.
So lunatic on top of lunatic, and we'll get into Hegseth later. But
we'll also do a lot more on Patel over the next couple of days. Important stuff. Hey, folks.
Anyway, you know, Kash Patel is just one of the many dangerous people being appointed here, but I think it's interesting to focus on, because of the FBI, because it is the arm of the government most directly associated at investigating and prosecuting domestic threats, right? What gets defined as a domestic threat is really important, and having a zealot who has been sort of trained in these kind of propaganda 101 things is pretty terrifying. I mean, this is a yes man he's going to march to whatever step he's told. And that's pretty scary. I want to hear what you think in the comments.